What is good, comic fam? At the table, in studio, it's been a minute, man, with an Overstreet price guide advisor. Comic fam, let's welcome Russ Bright back to the table.
Guys, it is absolutely wonderful to be here, and I want to give a big shout out to the Lake Stevens Public Library for letting me record there the last couple months.
Russ, we have 10 giveaways that we're announcing right here, right now. Drum roll, please. Boom. Congratulations. ENIAC number 1. I saw a CBCS 9.8. Couple days left to go at $700 right now.
It is incredibly high, this book. I mean, it's great. I know a lot of people looking for those first prints. People still aren't getting the idea that the not first prints are unlimited printings. They're going to be able to be printed. So the people paying 20 and 30 bucks for those on eBay, the price is going to plummet. Do not fall into FOMO. Just pay cover price on that book.
That's right. But that first print is definitely wanted right now.
Absolutely.
And there's another batch of books that are wanted. We're chatting the trending 10 of the week. Key Collector Comics. Download the app, the best comic app in existence, and use code TOM101 to unlock a free 1-week subscription. And let's jump into it at number 10 with some Jim Lee goodness.
Number 10 on the list, Children of the Atom number 1 variant. This is the Jim Lee 1 in 100 variant, and I can tell you that even though it's a 1 in 100 variant, it is the number 1 requested comic at my shop for this week.
$150, 250 bucks for a raw copy on the high end. And considering that Jim Lee doesn't really do a whole lot of Marvel covers, well, actually, I don't even think he does, right? And he's at DC, so this is a weird one. This is probably more like the Wolverine 1 variant that they redid. They brought it back from the past to redistribute.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that they're doing now is they're taking art that Jim Lee did in the Marvel era, and they're kind of recoloring or revamping it to be able to do it. But this book is absolutely incredible. It's a 1 in 100, and normally you don't see this type of demand for a 1 in 100. A lot of times you're going to see a 1 in 100. Good example like the Art Germ from X-Men Demon Days going in the $50 to $60 range, and now 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's in the $45 range. This is out, this is strong, and it's probably going to stay that way.
Exceeding $100 is a feat for a 1 in 100.
It absolutely
and this
is.
wraparound cover is gorgeous. The antagonist lineup, Juggernaut looking so dope. You got Mr. Sinister on there. Who is your favorite character on this cover, comic fam? You know it's going to enter you to win a giveaway. And let's jump in to the list at number 9.
Number 9 on the list, we have Nottingham number 1 from Mad Cave Studios. $12 average sale and a $35 high sale on this book.
This noir retelling of Robin Hood is so stellar. It's so dark. It's hyper violent. And they're there to still steal from the rich and give to the poor, but they're also there to cleanse the land of corrupt human beings. And we're talking the fornicators, the traitors, and above all else, the tax collectors.
This is absolutely not your Men in Tights, guys. This is dark and violent and awesome.
This narrative follows the sheriff of Nottingham, the city in which this takes place, as he's tasked with stopping the terrorists known as the Merry Men, led by the Hood. I'm getting some real Peter Panzerfaust vibes with this.
I agree, Tom. This is one of those things where kind of like Once and Future, we're getting a retelling of a story that people are familiar with that they've kind of turned on their ear. And these are very popular. And this is one that hit the gates very quickly, out brand new this week, sold out everywhere, already going to second print.
I want to hear the community's thoughts in the comment section below because I am such a fan of fairy tale retelling in comic books. I always dig it, especially when it's hyper violent like this one. Also, want to give a quick reminder about how the community can support what we do by hitting the link in the description and joining the mystery mail call. We have 2 dope covers going out to every single member. Peach Momoko's first interior work in Demon Days was fantastic. And we have a Mike McCone blacklight cover that looks so gorgeous in person.
It is incredible. And you know what? My favorite right now is I've got the Joker number 1 by Raf Grassetti doing the cover. And this is a partnership with Scorpion Comics. So great that we're able to work with them and get a DC exclusive into every single mail call this month.
First DC exclusive and a Marvel exclusive.
So
what is going on, Russ? We got to chat about number 8 on the list because we got the Green Lanterns causing a ruckus on HBO Max and a potential antagonist that we have got word of
Justice League of America number 141 definitely shocked me this week, Tom. You know, it's a book I've been thinking about, but I did not know it was going to happen. Can you fill the folks in on this one?
You're definitely not the only one, Russ, because we're seeing an 1,800% increase in copies sold for this comic, a $12 average sale, so really cheap buy-in, and a high sale of $140 for a CGC 9.8. And this is the first appearance of the Manhunters, the android law enforcement, the first crack that the Guardians of the Universe took to try and create an interstellar police force. And we got word that they're going to be introduced in the HBO Max Green Lantern series.
So this issue number 141 is the first appearance of the Manhunters, which is the android law enforcement team. But the DC Wiki actually states that number 140 is the first appearance of Manhunter. Now that's actually the human Mark Shaw, whose first appearance is in DC First Issue Special number 5 with that great Jack Kirby cover.
The word that Key Collector received was that the Manhunters would be specifically the android versions. We're not talking about Mark Shaw, the human version, which is why it's so important to know which key is which. You're going for the 141 if it is indeed this just radical law enforcement team who just cares more and more about catching their target than actually serving mankind and peace in the universe.
Number 7 on the list, we have She-Hulk number 22, which is going for $12 average sales and $80 for a CGC 9.8. This is the first appearance of Jacinda, who is a Skrull and happens to be a daughter of the Super Skrull. Well, she has disguised herself as Jennifer Walters, who is the She-Hulk. This book is selling 300% more than it was last week because there was a Skrull revealed in the mid-credits scene of WandaVision.
This is clearly an affordable book, cheap buy-in, and I suspect that it's because of spec, and it totally makes sense. I mean, let's walk them through it. We have the mid-credit scene because of the Skrulls. Skrulls have been appearing all over the place in the Marvel Universe because we know that they're going to be setting up Secret Invasion. We also have Tatiana Maslany, who is confirmed for the She-Hulk. The first Marvel family is going to be coming. John Krasinski, where you at? And Super Skrull is likely a villain we may see. Why not spec on affordable Skrull key appearances? Why not spec on the daughter, the banished daughter of Super Skrull?
And for those of you that are fans of zombies, you should keep an eye out for the Ed McGuinness variant, which is an homage to Incredible Hulk number 1 from 1962.
And now we're at the list at number 6, Neil Gaiman causing a ruckus this week. I'm so hyped for Lenore number 1 to make it. $10 average sales and a high sale of $200 for a CGC 9.8 after Neil Gaiman is tied to an animation that's being compared to a Tim Burton film for this dark comedy.
So this follows Lenore, who's a little dead girl who has a visually impaired mouse friend and another friend who's a paraplegic cannibal. It is dark, it is weird, and from this era, slave labor graphics was doing a lot with Roman Dirge and like Jonan Vasquez, who you know from Invader Zim. Well, they've been friends and working on stuff together. I think the most mainstream thing that most people would have heard of from Roman Dirge is the Haunted Mansion comic books, the Disney Haunted Mansion that came out from slave labor graphics as well. This is great to see him doing something a little bit more mainstream. And you know Neil Gaiman is going to give it the right twist to give it that Tim Burton-y flavor. It's going to be gothic, it's going to be dark, it's going to feel great, and I think a lot of people, they've been missing something like this.
This is an independent run, low print count, and we have an increase of copies sold of 1,100% in a week. This comic book is definitely one no one was keeping an eye out on, but I think that once it does hit the screen, especially because of the style of narrative it is, it's a lot of like 2-page stories that are just, you know, really quick and really gut-wrenching, awkward and funny, but also horrible. And this is something that people need to see, especially with Neil Gaiman attached to it.
So from dark comedy to Darkhold, we have number 5 on the list, Marvel Spotlight number 4. It's the third appearance of the Werewolf by Night, but the first appearance of the Darkhold. And we heard these words uttered, which is why we're seeing $320 average sales this week.
It's about to get chaotic. Wanda's dealing with some chaos magic, and if there's any chance of her retrieving her children, any resemblance of her former self that we just saw take place on WandaVision, she's gonna do it regardless of how dark it's gonna get, and it's going to the Darkhold, which is why this book is up 139% in just 7 days.
Number 4 on the list, the Magic the Gathering ash can from Boom Studios. Now, I follow Ross Ritchie over on Instagram, and I wasn't even really paying attention to the fact that an ash can had come in, and he posts that 2 of them have sold on eBay for $150. And I'm like, oh my God, there's an ash can going for $150, and they were getting listed quickly. So the book has now settled around $40. There is some crazy fear of missing out on this book right now. The ash cans just hit the stores this week. There's a lot of buzz, and we know that Boom Studios is going to do a great job with this property. I have a lot of faith in it. I know the other people that have done it before, Tom and I have talked about this, have not really taken the magic stuff so seriously, and I think Boom is the right studio to do it.
I'm very hyped to see what Boom Studios does with this property in April. I haven't read the ash can yet, but what I have seen, Planeswalker variants that are coming, characters that Magic players care about getting their own covers. They're doing a bundle, like a booster pack of variants. They're going to serve the collectors. They're going to serve the Magic players. And if you tap the comics, it's going to source mana. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Get your 20-sided die ready. And let's take a look at number 3 on the list.
Number 3 on the list, we have Cartoon Network starring Number 1, which is the first appearance of the Powerpuff Girls in comic books.
This right here, I think, is very promising, even for a CW show. We're seeing $80 average sales and $125 for an 8.5. This comic is super tough and high grade. And we knew last year in August that CW was getting ready for a lineup, a live action adaptation that was going to debut at some point in the future. Because, you know, COVID, we don't really know when anything's going to actually happen between this year and next. Right. But we're finding out this week a full casting call has been announced.
So an 867% increase this week because we've found out that Dove Cameron, Yana Peralt, and Chloe Bennett, who you would know as Daisy Johnson, Quake, from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel television show, are being cast as the 3 Powerpuff Girls.
Dove Cameron was tweeting years ago that she wanted to play Bubbles. I think her dreams came true this year. How exciting. And you know, as a 90s kid, I grew up on Dexter's Lab. I grew up on Powerpuff Girls. Johnny Bravo's probably never going to happen, but I want to see Dee Dee, you know? I want to see some more of these types of 90s nostalgia take place because we've been seeing nothing but 80s nostalgia, really, of the focus of collectors. And right here, we're seeing some opportunity for a little bit of the newer age of collectors to get involved. And that's why this book is so interesting to me.
Well, Tom, a lot of that is a passing of the torch from the guys who grew up in the 80s to the guys who grew up in the 90s. The kids now that are your age have more disposable income, and they're the ones that people are just focusing on for these demographics, which is why shows like Dexter's Lab and things like, you know, Johnny Bravo and, you know, Cow and Chicken, that type of thing. We're probably going to be seeing more things like that.
And now we're at the list at number 2. Break out your roller skates. It's about to get brutal. We got Slam number 1 making the list.
Well, you know, with all these 4-letter words out there, Glow was super popular. Now we got Slam. All of a sudden, we have a comic book about roller derby. Oh my gosh. And this came out from Boom Studios this week.
We're seeing a $20 average sale for this book, a high sale of $200 after word that there is an animation adaptation of this comic book that's going to hit HBO Max. And this is one of those ones where I think it's going to surprise people because it had a pretty low order of retailers. I mean, 6,500. And this is one of those books that are more akin to Paper Girls, where at the beginning didn't really sell that well. But once it gained traction, people realized that this is a comic that isn't like that narrow for the reader target demographic, and it blew up.
This is absolutely the epitome of you can't judge a book by its cover, because something like Paper Girls, not a lot of people picked it up because they thought it was for them. Same thing like this. Not everyone is into roller derby, but there's so much going on with this book. I think people are really going to dig it, and it should take off, especially on the news that they're making an animated series.
Now, there's a 1,900% increase in copies sold for this comic book, and Rooster Teeth is attached to it. And I don't know, have you ever been to like a roller derby ring?
Oh yeah, it's insane.
Dude, it's violent, man. Like, it's dangerous stuff. So I think people are going to be surprised with this one. Keep an eye out for Slam. Pretty much everything Boom Studios is doing, apparently. And number 1 on the list.
Number 1 on the list, we have Marvel Voices number 1. $15 average sales. Children of the Atom number 1 came out this week. And this book is the first appearance of Children of the Atom with Cherub, Daycrawler, Cyclops Lass. I mean, it's a fantastically cool new team.
Something to consider right now is young teams. You know, Young Avengers has been hot. We have the new Agents of Atlas that has been spec worthy for such a long time. And considering that these characters are an homage to fan favorite characters like Gambit, Nightcrawler, and Jean Grey, I think this is definitely one to grab just for spec potential. What was unique in this comic book is that it was filled with short stories. And one of the stories follows a character that we all know, but we didn't really have an introduction to, a real introduction to. We have the goddess spider, the spider that bit Cindy Moon, that bit Peter Parker, that started the Spider-Verse. It's sentient, it speaks, and it's introduced in this comic.
$35 for a high sale and a 608% increase over the last week. I mean, this is great. And the fact that we're seeing a character that we've known about for years, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, no, this is the actual spider that bit Peter Parker. And even more so, the fact that Silk is becoming a more popular character and Cindy Moon got bit by the same spider.
We see an introduction to this character because, yeah, it's just a simple spider that has gamma issues, you know, with it, and it's being tested on and it's being held captive by scientists, but it also understands what it did, what it's doing, and it enjoys helping people. So much to the extent that we see in the last panel that it actually does superhero tasks. You have to read this weird short story because I think that this thing is so out there that it's worth every collector's attention. I'm feeling hyped. How about you, comic fam? Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're in the new studio. Hit me some likes. You know, we put a lot of work into this. And as always,
Geek responsibly.
Enough said. Comic fam, we're giving away one of our Marvel Voices, issue number 1, done by Ken Lashley, to someone who comments down below. You know, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and we have other videos that you can check out. Have a good weekend.